Hey, good morning, afternoon. I guess it's afternoon here too. To all of you, thanks for joining me. As always, you know what? I'd love to know that you're in the audience. So when you join, do me a favor, hit me with a heart or a thumbs up or a wow, because like this is definitely going to be a wow kind of interview today with Dr. Steve Welsh, who is the president of the ICA. Lots of cool stuff is happening in our profession. Dr. Steve just got back from the Chiropractic Summit. And so I asked him to join us and give us a briefing of what's going on. And if you look at the crawler, you know that this is definitely something that's near and dear to my heart. Like, don't trash other DCs. We don't have to like what everybody else is doing, including the chiropractor down the street from us. But at the end of the day, if you have DC behind your name, we're a family. So I think it's a really awesome opportunity to learn from this guy who is there front and center and fighting on the front lines for all of us. So Dr. Steve, thanks so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me again. Now, this is for the third time.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy the opportunity to address your tribe, the boot camp, okay, which is one of probably hundreds of tribes in our profession. And one of the subjects that was discussed is the subject of the fact that our profession, as it's practiced in the United States, is built upon a set of fundamental principles that were founded on by D.D. Palmer, that were encoded in all of our statutes, and that is that a chiropractic adjustment removes the interference from the nervous system, allowing the body to heal itself. That's a fundamental concept that's built in all 50 states in one way, shape, or another. And from the ICA's point of view, the whole concept of the subluxation and correcting the subluxation, that's what embodies that concept. Right. Well, in other parts of the world, okay, there are organizations and there are colleges that are basically suggesting that vitalistic chiropractic and subluxation chiropractic is nonsense. They're suggesting that the only evidence that exists is for neck pain and back pain. They're proposing to eliminate the concept of a neuromusculoskeletal profession and suggest that it's only musculoskeletal. And from my point of view, they're willing to exchange the fundamental basis of our profession for acceptance in operating in the medical paradigm as a neck pain and back pain specialist. And so the ICA has taken a very strong position against that. That's why we filed our complaint against two researchers at the WFC. And so in essence, one of the messages that I had is that the ICA is a big tent, right? And we welcome and accept everybody and every organization, okay, that accepts our basic vision, mission, and values. And a couple of months ago, our board of directors approved a series of 5 value statements, which we now have up on our website. 2 of them are relevant to some of the debates and the discussions at hand. One is on respect, and the other one is on collaboration. Mm-hmm. Right? And it's important that we have respect for all of our colleagues and for all of our organizations, even the ones that have a different perspective, a different point of view, a different objective, et cetera. And yes, you can carry on a debate, you can carry on a discussion, but it's important to do it civilly. All right. And so from that point of view, the topic that came up was Medicare legislation. Right. And a couple of months ago, the ICA announced its parameters. Okay, we don't have a bill dropped in yet. Already, our lobbyist, acting executive director, is working with the staffs of a couple of key members of the Ways and Means Committee. But we do have a bill drafted. We haven't gone public with it, but we have gone public with our outline or our parameters of what the bill is going to do and how it's going to do it. And then like a month later, there was a bill dropped in by the American Chiropractic Association. Well, you know, in my emails, okay, I get feedback from my RAs, and in some states, shortly after we announced our parameters, some of the representatives of the other organization wrote nasty emails trashing what the ICA was doing. And then shortly after the ACA dropped in their bill, already some of my members sent out emails trashing the ACA bill. Okay, and it does nobody any good to trash each other's organizations or each other's bills. The fact of the matter is, the legislators, I don't care whether you're at the state level or you're at the federal level, they do not like infighting or to be a referee between different factions or tribes or organizations within the same profession. So if there's one way to kill getting anything done, okay, it's to publicly argue against respective positions of respective organizations. And that's true at the state level, and it's true at the federal level. Okay, now I've basically announced publicly that for a various set of reasons, the ICA cannot publicly support the ACA bill. Now, because it does not meet, I think, 5 of the 6 parameters that the ICA has defined as critical and important to the profession for any legislation that's moved forward. Okay, but just because we don't support it and we don't endorse it doesn't mean that we have to criticize it or that we have to oppose it. Alrighty, what we want to do is sell our bill, sell our concepts, get ours introduced, okay, and then because the reality is the likelihood that either bill is going to be passed on its own merit is pretty small. More than likely, in response to HR 6 later on this fall, there will be probably a Medicare bill in response to what the requests were from Congress in HR 6, primarily to address removing the barriers to non-pharmacological approaches to pain so that the patients have a choice of doing something other than getting a drug from the MD, right? And so that's going to happen. And you know, the last time I looked, there were a couple of hundred bills that have been dropped in that are related to Medicare, right? And so eventually, the best parts of all of the various bills that have been submitted are going to, in essence, go through the sausage factory, and they're going to come out the other end in one great big Medicare bill. So instead of fighting each other, you know, the answer is you promote the good of what you have, right? And you avoid giving your profession a black eye in front of the legislators, and then you compete on the value of your ideas and what you put forth and what you're doing. So the ICA will be aggressively marketing its proposals so that later on this year, when our congressmen return from their summer breaks, et cetera, and they get serious about actually doing something, our ideas will get included. So it's kind of that simple.
So we support and fight for a person's right to choose a non-pharmacological approach to living pain-free, right? Yes. So let me ask you this. For those who are watching now or watch this later, what about the doc who says, yeah, but Dr. Steve and Dr. Barbara, it's so hard to have respect for a chiropractor who's threatening my very existence as a chiropractor of being non-drug, right? Like how do we show respect for somebody who wants to really and truly change chiropractic? Like chiropractic isn't drugless, right? So how do you propose that when we have such complete differences, how can we still show support, or not maybe support, but show respect for somebody who is vehemently against the way in which I want to practice chiropractic, which is non-drug related?
Okay. Again, the answer is you address the policies in the appropriate forums. Okay, you don't attack the individuals based upon the fact that they have a policy that's different than yours. Right? We should have debate. We should have civil discourse. Okay, but you can disagree on a policy level, okay, without being disrespectful of either the individual or the organization that's advocating a policy that's different than yours. Right. The fact of the matter is nothing's going to get changed unless it gets changed in the state legislature in the 50 states. So instead of arguing and trashing and calling names, okay, when that policy discussion comes up in a given state, you show up at the legislature and you present your point of view in a professional manner. Okay, just like the ICA did in New Mexico 6 or 7 or 8 years ago. All righty, when push came to shove and there were issues in New Mexico, the ICA showed up and we respectfully presented all of the reasons why it was inappropriate for the chiropractic profession to get into the business of prescribing drugs. All right, I mean, it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
We've been arguing amongst our. I mean, everybody I talk to, what's their comment about the chiropractic profession? It's the only one that circles the wagons and shoots in.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, with the attacks that are coming from outside the United States, we need to circle the wagons and shoot out. Right? Yeah. We need to stand up and we need to say that chiropractic as practiced in the United States, which is basically built upon the fundamental premise that an adjustment removes nerve interference that allows the body to heal and express health, that concept, already, we need to stand up and say there is evidence, okay, to support that premise. And there is evidence. I mean, one of the presentations that was given by Heidi Habit from New Zealand, already, about the research, instead of doing clinical trials, she's doing some basic research into understanding the mechanisms, and she's coming up with some fantastic insights into the nature of pain and into the nature of what happens when you do an adjustment. And it's not about adjusting to remove the pain. She's doing research on asymptomatic patients, and she's monitoring and seeing the changes in the prefrontal cortex associated immediately following the adjustment. All right, and it is absolutely amazing. Okay, so we always think about us as being nervous system doctors, not bone doctors, and we are. Okay, but we are having profound effects on the brain in an area of the brain, okay, that affects our emotions, that affects our immune system, that affects basically our ability to understand the environment, both external to our body and internal to our systems. And in order to have the proper communication, that's what it's all about. Okay, so the evidence is coming. Now, is it as strong as the double-blind trials, et cetera, on pain? No, but it doesn't mean there's no evidence. Okay, so we need to stand up and loudly shout to the rest of the world, there is evidence that supports the biological plausibility of what we do, right? And it is important to recognize the patient's preference, and it is important, okay, to operate on a whole. And again, this whole call for a divorce between the vitalistic chiropractors and the what they claim is the evidence-based chiropractors is preposterous, right? Yeah. The reality is, even if you operate in the mechanic mode and the mechanistic mode, and even if you believe that it's just about pain relief, you're still doing a service for your patient. It's still better than going to the MD. Mm-hmm. Now, if you believe in the vitalistic paradigm and the ICA approach, then our opinion is you're going to get much better results. Okay, but we shouldn't be fighting with just two different expressions of the same thing. Mm. Just like quantum physics and the nature of light, you can have a photon, which is a particle of light, and you can have a wavelength, which is energy. Right? It doesn't mean you can divorce one from the other. They're just two different expressions of the same thing. Right? So those that want to operate in the mechanistic environment, you're still providing. There are colleagues, and they're still providing a valuable service. Right? Now, from our point of view, not as good as the service we provide, but we don't have to trash them for operating in that model. We can respect the fact that they're still chiropractors and they're still helping their patients, and they still have the best motives in mind. Now, on the policy issues, we have to have a debate. Okay, but it can be a civil debate, and then we show up where we need to show up. We need to be engaged. We need to be at the table, and we need to be there, basically promoting the validity of what we do. And if we don't gather as a profession in the United States and circle the wagons and defend ourselves from those outside the United States, then, in this day of the internet, okay, where what happens in Australia or what happens in Canada or what happens in Denmark, okay, instantly shows up in the United States and can influence our policymakers if we're not shouting from the rooftops the validity of what we do and why we do it. All right, then we got some problems. So it's time to band together. Okay, it's time to collaborate across all of the organizations, particularly in the Chiropractic Summit, and defend ourselves in the way we practice.
And I think it would be so awesome because there are chiropractors who really love and specialize, obviously, in caring for individuals who are in extreme pain. There's another group of chiropractors who want nothing to do, like they don't want to serve that population. There's another group of chiropractors who really want to specialize in pregnancy care or postpartum or traumatic brain injury or athletics, or that want to be, personal injury. So wouldn't it be better, my colleagues, wouldn't it be better if instead we just say, hey, Steve, like you're awesome at serving this population. I want to refer this population to you. And hey, Dr. Kristen, you're really phenomenal at serving this population. And Dr. Claire, you're really great at serving this population. And Dr. Barb, you're really great at serving this population. Can't we just respect one another and refer that population within our community to each other? Doesn't that just seem easy?
Well, it would seem to be a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But again, old habits die hard. Right. And the fact of the matter is we've had infighting in our profession for almost 125 years since its inception. Right. And I would suggest that D.D. Palmer was a couple of hundred years ahead of his time, and that the research that is being done now in New Zealand is just scratching the surface and is beginning to prove, okay, and the validity of all of the premises that were developed 125 years ago and promoted by BJ and the ICA. So the evidence is coming, and we're on the right side. And the way I look at it, is the mechanistic viewpoint. That paradigm is actually built upon what I call 17th century science. It's been built upon the Newtonian mechanical theories. Whereas if you study quantum physics, and I know it's a little stretch because the more you study quantum physics, the more you understand that we don't really know what we don't know, and that the world is not exactly what we think it is. And so you need to open up your mind to the fact that there's an energy component in addition to the physical component that we don't truly completely understand, right? But once you grasp that, you begin to realize that chiropractic is founded on 20th century science. Right. And it's not about if this, then this, it's about increasing probabilities. And so if you have positive thoughts and your interactions with the patients, it's going to increase the probability that that patient is going to get better. Right. That doesn't fit in the mechanistic model. Okay. But it fits in the ICA model. It fits in the subluxation model. And some of this is actually coming out in the research that Heidi is doing.
Well, and I think it's like other relationships in our lives, right? If we're bent on proving somebody else wrong to prove ourselves right, they're really it's never going to be a victory, right? And why does somebody else have to agree with you to make you feel better about yourself? I don't have to have anyone else agree with me to know I'm right. I'm right. Like your agreement with me doesn't make me more right or doesn't make me, better. It's just we can all be right and yet still get along. It's just like in marriage. It's like in a friendship. There are going to be differences, and that's okay. We can celebrate those differences while also being committed to the fact that we must have more research. Right? Just like Dr. Heidi, what she's doing and others in this country as well, the research that they're doing, and it doesn't prove the validity of chiropractic care. I think our practice members prove the validity of chiropractic care, right? The fact that their lives change, that their children's lives change, that they're off drugs, that they're living and functioning at a better rate than they ever used to. That's what really proves it. However, the research then backs up what our people experience every single day, the miracles that happen every day in our practice. And so I just want to say thank you to you and to the ICA for your commitment to say, look, let's agree. Let's work to agree on policy. Let's work to put forth policy that supports chiropractic, that supports a chiropractor's ability to still locate and correct vertebral subluxation. It always goes back to what did DD bring forth for us? We can't abandon that. And so, Dr. Steve, I just thank you for taking that stand and being a mediator to bring us together. So let me ask you something. Someone who's watching now or watches later, what can they do to help move towards that common ground? Like, how can they get behind you as you lead this charge towards really unifying our profession?
Well, I think the most important thing, okay, is one, support the research that is being done at the ICA affiliated colleges and programs, and particularly, and I'm hoping that the New Zealand Chiropractic College may consider becoming affiliated with the ICA. Right now, it's only the domestic programs. I'll be attending the Rubicon conference in Paris in November, and I'll be meeting with some of the heads of some of the international schools that are in alignment with vitalistic subluxation chiropractic, and see whether or not that's a possibility. But what it gets down to is how you conduct yourselves when you have communications, particularly when you're in any way, shape, or form representing the ICA at the state level, at your state association meetings, etc. We need to stop automatically assuming that just because another organization does something, we have to oppose it. All right, the infighting needs to stop. All right, and when I talk to folks from all different organizations, everybody nods their head and says, "You're 100% right. Okay, we need to do that. We need to, we need to get along a little bit better." But then you always have the naysayers, and they disagree, and call them out. All right, when you run into the naysayer that all I want to do is argue and all I want to do is criticize everybody else, just tell them, "Hey, guy or girl or guy, person, however, just get real." Okay, you're not going to get anywhere, okay, by tearing somebody else down. Okay, you get somewhere by positively promoting the best parts of your ideas. Okay, it's about competition in the world of good ideas. So compete on the positive of what you're proposing rather than on the negative. So try to avoid going negative and try to maintain positive. And when you really get down to what we were taught by D.D. Palmer, trauma, toxins, and thoughts. All right? And the more you maintain positive thoughts and the more you maintain a positive dialogue, then as an individual, you're going to help contribute moving our profession forward on a positive basis.
I love that. Kind of like a practice what we preach.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Dr. Steve, I know you're really busy. Thank you so much for joining me today. I encourage all of you to really consider joining. If you haven't already, join the ICA and get involved and do what you can. A really simple way to do that right now is to simply share this broadcast. Just like go right below, right here, and click share and share it to your Facebook page and into those groups that you participate in. And let's open up the dialogue. Remember, focus on the policies, focus on the issues, and let's raise the vibrational frequency of respect that we have for each other within our profession and recognize we can disagree and still be kind to one another. So, Dr. Steve, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
And thank you so much for having me again. And I look forward to another conversation in a week or two.
That sounds really good. Hey, everyone, have a great rest of your day. Be safe. Enjoy this last holiday weekend of our summer, and God bless you. Bye.
Bye.